Hello, RNA.
Hello, Sarah.
How are you today?
I'm so good. I want to make sure that everybody can see this beautiful QR code.
Thanks, I made it myself. So, this is the part where I get to ask my boss questions. Questions I should probably know working here. But, RNA, if you, in however much time we have left, why did you start Little Herds? What is Little Herds?
Little Herds is an educational nonprofit here in Austin, Texas. We were founded in 2013, and I really have my mom to thank. When I was working as a bar manager in 2012, she sent me a video about eating insects as a joke. She said, "This looks like something wacky that you and Dad would try, but no thank you." And I took it too seriously. I thought it was so fascinating. I started reading everything I could online, and I learned that insects are incredibly nutritious. I learned that insects are incredibly resource efficient. I learned that insects can be farmed in a way that is more humane and ethical than many of our traditional livestock options. And I also learned that there were people all over the world who already viewed insects as a normal food, a normal part of their culinary tradition. And the more I read, the more I went from curious to fascinated to really diving down the rabbit hole. And I actually started farming insects in my own apartment to see how you could grow them. And I started turning them into mealworm powder and putting them into cookies and taking them to local farmers market, Hope Farmers Market here in Austin, and feeding them to the public to see what they thought. And we very quickly realized that most adults in America have a psychological taboo against eating insects. And it's really kids that are a lot more receptive. If you have nieces, nephews, kids, you may have seen them put things in their mouth that they're not supposed to. And so with kids, they will put just about anything in their mouth, and if it tastes good, they'll eat it, and if it doesn't, they will spit it out. And so when we were at the farmer's market, we would have a plate of cricket cookies or mealworm cookies that are abstracted, and that's how we got the adults to try it. There would be a bowl of crickets, and kids would just start snacking on them. And their parents would be like, "What are you letting my kids eat?" We'd be like, no, it's cool. Look, they're good for their body. It's good for the planet. It's a lot more humane. And imagine if, like broccoli and asparagus was this easy. And we can grind it up and put it in their breakfast cereal. Like, this is great. And most of the grown-ups at that point were like, okay, I guess I'm okay with my kid eating bugs. I'm still a little on the fence. But that's where it started. We really saw that there was a big potential in helping more people destigmatize the idea, correct some misunderstandings or some misconceptions around insects. And over the years, we really expanded that mission from talking about just eating insects to how can we use insects as a part of a better agricultural system? How can we grow insects using byproducts or food waste that would otherwise go into a landfill and produce greenhouse gases? How can we use insects to feed our cats and our dogs and our pets? How can we use insects to feed our livestock something better than corn and soy? How can we use insects for all sorts of different raw materials when we stop thinking about insects as something that we need to spray with a chemical and start thinking about them the way that they really are in a natural ecosystem? Insects are part of the decomposers in nature. They help break things down into usable materials for plants, for animals, for the environment, and that's what we want to inspire new generations to really think about. And in the past 10 years, it's been really amazing. 10 years ago, the only popular representations for eating insects in American culture were like Fear Factor and Survivor and like, oh, eating a big centipede. But now there are so many companies that are making products that are farming insects. There are so many celebrities and athletes and musicians, from Justin Timberlake to Questlove to NBA stars to football players, Katy Perry, like all of these people as they travel around the world. They go to Thailand, they go to Kenya, they go to Mexico, and they see how important these insect ingredients are for those traditional cultures, for those cuisines, and they understand that it's not something that we want to stigmatize or demonize.
I love that. So correct me if I'm wrong, Little Herds is essentially an educational nonprofit teaching people about insects for food.
Yes.
I'm like, that one's a yes or no. I have a
That is
follow-up question.
accurate.
So as you have been operating since, 2013, 2014? 2013, what are some of the things that you found challenging and or really successful about educating it sounds like educating kids is a little easier than educating adults. Some of us are a little stuck in our ways. What's the most challenging and the most successful thing out of trying to impart this knowledge onto our greater community?
I think the most challenging thing is because so many people are, they're sort of primed psychologically to say like, ooh, gross, or like, ooh, what are you eating? That's really gross. And especially with kids, we see this. When kids are with peers, if one person is saying it's gross, then some kids will want to eat it because it's gross, but a lot of kids will prefer not to. But if you have one kid who says, if they eat a cricket that's like a sriracha flavored cricket, they say, oh, this tastes like hot Cheetos, or this tastes like Takis, or flaming Doritos, then the other kids are like, oh, let me try it. Oh, yeah, this does. And then you get like boom, 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 and all the kids are into it. They all think it's great. So the challenging thing is really making sure that it's a positive experience. If you're trying something new, whether it's insects or seaweed or plant-based proteins, if you're trying something new and someone's saying, oh, that's gross, they're yucking your yum. They're making it really difficult for you to be able to fully experiencing that. But if you get a chance to try it in an environment that is celebratory, that is aspirational, that is optimistic, and says, this is great, you're curious, you're trying something new, you're trying something that's outside of your comfort zone, let's celebrate that together, then people are easily able to get excited about it, they're easily able to try it, and even if they don't necessarily like it themselves, they're left with the impression that this is okay for other people to do too. It's something that is not weird, it's something that is just new. And I think that is the thing that's most inspiring and powerful is when we will talk to kids who we went to their Girl Scout troop or their 4-H club or their YMCA after school program, in 2015. And, now they're in high school doing a book report on a book about eating insects, or they're in college and they're doing research papers about the way that insects can benefit our gut biomes. It's really inspiring for us to see how this can change the way that people view it and the way that they talk about it with their peers, the way that they talk about it with their professional networks, and that has that ripple effect, and that's really incredible.
I love that, thank you. So we have heard a lot about eating crickets, even eating mealworms. What are some of the other insects that may not be popular in our society, but you find are generally normalized around the world?
Yeah, so I think there's some, yesterday we talked about some things like mopane worms in South Africa.
I want to try them.
The mopane worm is supposed to have a flavor that's really meaty and salty and umami like a sausage. In Australia, in traditional Aboriginal cultures, the witchetty grub is this big grub. It's got a lot of fat, and so again, it's got a very like fatty, meaty, salty profile.
Is that the one on Lion King?
I'm sorry?
Is that the one on Lion King? When Simba goes.
Right, slimy yet satisfying. And then there's, one of the things that I think is really, from a culinary perspective for chefs, this is really the ability to look at all these different thousands of insect species that are edible. Ants is a great example. Ants around the world, depending on the species, depending on their diet, they will have a different flavor profile. So you may eat ants from one place and they taste grassy because they're leafcutter ants. They're eating vegetal materials and they have a very like grassy, fresh, vegetal, salady kind of flavor. You might eat ants in a different place, and the formic acid from like a fire ant gives it a spicy flavor. You eat ants like in China, you have black ants that have a very citrusy flavor, like kaffir lime leaves. So for a chef to be able to have like this whole pantry full of new ingredients, full of new flavor profiles, full of new textures to experiment with and play with, we find for them that that's really exciting to have this like whole new vista of culinary applications to explore.
That's amazing. So it's almost like the array of ants is kind of like the salts, the different flavored salts. So thank you so much. We are one of the main organizing bodies for the Future of Food. So if you have enjoyed this event, please see our Give Pulse. It takes many hands to make this work happen. And that's about all the time that we have for today. We have a little microbite for you. And then if you want to introduce the next panel real quick, and the microbite will play and they'll come on stage.
Thank you so much. All right. Next up, we're going to have a panel that we're very excited about. This is a panel that's going to be talking about water, a panel that's going to be talking about agriculture and the way that we can really change the way that we think about how we utilize the oceans, how we utilize our bodies of water, and how we can grow and farm food in new and novel ways. And especially, following a conversation about insects, where insects are something that have been around for all these cultures for so long. It may be new to us, but it's a really old ingredient. Seaweed, kelp, sea vegetables, these are things that have been used by cultures all over the world. Our food society has forgotten about that. And so it's amazing for us to be working with entrepreneurs who are working with farmers and creating new and novel ways to get delicious food and delicious sustainable seafood onto our plate. And we're thrilled to have a great journalist moderating this discussion and our good friend, Chef Andrew Zimmern. So I'm going to let this play, and then we're going to have a delightful discussion.